and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Shegun Onirude, and if this is your first time coming across a video from this channel is dedicated towards providing guides, relevant insights, simple asks and hints for you if you are currently on the study abroad journey to the United States. So I provide relevant information on how to go about admissions and scholarships in the United States. I have walked through the path, and you can consider me as that's your buddy on this journey. So stick around, please subscribe and share this with some of your friends that might be in this line also, and like the video so that you can get to as much as possible that needs this information. Thank you. Now let's get right into it. One of the things that I've observed that affects so many people that are trying to apply to schools abroad, not just the United States, is because they are afraid of or have challenges with having to handle standardized tests. Example of IELTS, GRE, SAT. And what are standardized tests? Basically, standardized tests are basically assessments that colleges, universities in different countries basically use to, like evaluate students, of course, as part of other application materials. And especially for international students, this is something that sometimes you have to provide. But then, as it turns out, and based on different developments, so many schools, especially in the US, do not even use most of these things as a singular means of evaluating students. And this is basically what I want you to know. For example, I am a testament of someone who didn't have to write IELTS, any test of English exam, and even GRE, and I still got my admission and my scholarship. Of course, this video is not an aim to discourage you if you are already writing things, especially the GRE, if you have the means and the capacity to do so. Of course, by all means do that. I'm going to talk about that later in this video. And what are some of the standardized tests that are available? For the test of English, you hear things like the IELTS, the TOEFL, the Duolingo, and so many other tests of English tests like that. And why do schools require the test of English test? It is primarily a means of evaluating your proficiency where the use of English is concerned, especially if it's a country or a university where English is the medium of instruction. So that's the reason why it is required. And then there are exams like SAT. SAT is usually for undergraduate students, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus mostly on the standardized test for graduate programs. So for graduate level, there is GRE and then there is GMAT. GRE is graduate record examination, and then the GMAT is the graduate management admission test. And so basically, these two exams are sometimes used to evaluate people for their graduate programs. But like I said before, so many people don't know that this is sometimes waived, not required, or just optional. So because they just hear GRE, they feel like they need to provide it before they are able to apply. One thing I would quickly like to chip in is that there are thousands of schools in the United States, and trust me, there is at least one or two schools, actually so many schools, that don't require you to write GRE for you to get admission, and if I can even say it, even fully funded scholarship for that program that you are going for. So the aim of this conversation is to make sure that you don't allow whether or not you have these things to stop you. Really, you don't allow it to stop you. And I'm not just going to say this thing by words. Shortly, I'm going to switch over to my computer and I'm going to show you how to go about it, to go about your application, whether or not you have these things, right? And still be able to stand a chance to be qualified, to be considered on a fair ground with other people. First, with the IELTS, I've already explained, and test of English generally, I've already explained the reason why this is needed. But for some of you that might be watching this video, I'm very sure you are most probably from countries where English is the medium of instruction. If you are in such situation, there is a high tendency that your country is listed or is recognized as part of the countries that English is used as a medium of instruction there. So you will most probably not have to submit any form of proficiency of English. So you don't even need to go and write IELTS. Like I like to say, if you have the money to write IELTS, especially if you are applying to schools in the United States, I would advise that you even invest that money in, your application fees, because you still have that, to handle, right? So many of these schools already have a list of countries that they exempt because they recognize them as countries where English is used as a medium of instruction. And Nigeria, Ghana, I'm very sure, are one of those countries where that is considered by many schools in the US as countries rather, that English is used as a medium of instruction there. So what do you do for the test of English? Whenever you want to apply to a school, you want to first, apart from checking the admission requirements, you want to first go ahead, and I'm going to show you how to go about that. You want to first go ahead to go to their international website, international services website or page for the school, and see what they have to say concerning test of English. So usually you will see them write things like IELTS will require these when it comes to test of English, but just go ahead and you are going to see either of two things, or of these three things is going to happen. One, they might say that they might show you a list of countries that are exempted from the list. Now, if the university does not specifically include your country there, sometimes the university will just say, if English is the medium of instruction in your school, you don't have to submit IELTS. If they don't specifically list countries, to be sure, please go ahead and reach out to the admission coordinator or that international service, the email that they provide there, and ask them, tell them the country that you are from, let them know that English is the medium of instruction there, and confirm if you can still go ahead and apply before you go ahead to apply, right? But if not, they are going to list the countries. So check and see if your country is there. If your country is not there and you are certain that your country's medium of instruction is English, you can still go ahead and send an email to them. Sometimes they will just say, okay, you can go ahead and apply. Or sometimes they can just say, if you are that sure, rather than writing an IELTS, if you can provide them with a it's more or less like a certificate or a letter. It's called like a use of English proficiency. It is a letter that can be provided to you by the school where you had your undergraduate programs. With this letter, if you provide it to the schools that you're applying to, it can also be recognized in place of IELTS, right? So that's the first thing that you need to look out for. The other thing that can happen, which is like the third thing that can happen, is that by the time you get to the website, regardless of the country that you're coming from, and as much as you're an international student, the school is going to require IELTS. So in that case, if you still want to go ahead and apply to that school, that means you have to write an IELTS. But I can assure you that there are hundreds of universities in the US that definitely have your program that don't require IELTS. So if you don't have the means, the willingness, or the capacity to write that test of English at that point, you can definitely just go ahead and look for another school that accepts, that does not require a test of English. Now, for GRE, presently there are so many programs that don't even include GRE as part of their admission requirements for graduate programs. I'm talking about GRE and GMAT now, right? However, there are some programs that include it. Now, there are different forms that this happens. Some are going to include it and let you know that, well, this is not a requirement, but if you do submit your GRE, it is going to be part of the things that is going to be used to evaluate whether or not you should be admitted. So in that sense, what they mean is that if you don't have a GRE, it's not a problem. You are still going to be considered fairly. But if you do submit it, if you do have it, of course, you can submit it. Another form that it might come is that they will say they don't require GRE at all. They will not even include it. Another form that it might come is that they would say, if you have a GRE, fine, it will give you more edge. But if not, it can be waived for you. Now, in the case where a GRE can be waived, that means that you will need, and this will be specified on the website. I would see if I can also show you that on the computer by the time we switch over to the computer and check some schools that have something like that. And then you will see they will require you to reach out to them to request a GRE waiver. So that GRE waiver will allow you to be able to proceed with your application without submitting a GRE test or results, right? And then there are also some schools, and I came across a school like this. There are schools like that they can consider you for admission without your GRE. But if you want to be considered for a fully funded scholarship, there was a particular school like the University of Alabama. I was trying to apply to their computer science program, and it was specified there that you'll be considered for admission without the GRE. But if you want to be considered for scholarship, you have to provide a GRE result, right? So what is the solely of this conversation? It is that you just want to make sure that you check the admission requirements, but before you zero it out and say, oh, they require a GRE, you want to check and see if they have a waiver. Sometimes some schools will not put GRE there. like that. So that shows that they don't require it. And some schools will put it there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is a major requirement for you to be considered for admission. Sometimes it is optional, which means that, and sometimes you can actually request a waiver for you to be considered for admission. So this is me just bringing assurance, bringing support to you. If you are somebody that you are the major challenge that you are having or concern that you are having is that you possibly don't have the financial capacity, or maybe the mental willingness or the space of time, to be able to prepare for some of these exams, and you are thinking it's going to affect your admission and scholarship. I've come to tell you that no, it's not going to. I am a testament, and there are so many other people that were able to scale through this process without necessarily having to go through any standardized test. Now let's head over to the computer, and I'm going to show you how to look out for some of these things as you go through your application. Let's go. I'm going to walk you through the website of some schools and how to check for and be sure about their requirements where test of English and maybe things like GRE is concerned. So this is Purdue University, and then this is their nursing master's program. I'm just using this as an example. So let's go ahead to the admission requirements. So they're going to say a lot of things here. So the transcript, recommendation letters, personal history statement, and other relevant things that they want you to submit. And of course, the grade points that they require. But let's see what they have to say concerning English proficiency requirements. So international applicants whose native English is not English are required to provide proof of English for admission, and they listed some of the, English tests that they accept. It has to be one of the following, one of the ways: IELTS, Duolingo, and so many others. So now let's see. Now they now talked about a waiver. So they say you're a waiver if you're a citizen of, or you got your degree from an English speaking country, right? And you'll find out that they are going to say a lot of things. So you have to go through like this information. But where I'm going really is find out, and you see that they listed the countries here. So if you're from Ghana, for instance, so Ghana is here, Botswana is here, South Africa is here. I'm looking for Nigeria is here, Liberia, is here. So this is the green light that you need. But again, you want to make sure that you read this, and you'll see that it says something very important here, which is important, which is one reason why it's important to you. It says some GRE programs, and this happens a lot. Like there are some schools, right, that when you are applying to the requirements for a particular program for programs might differ, right? For instance, in my school, I know a department that does not accept like unofficial transcript, but my department accepts unofficial transcript, but that particular department does not accept unofficial transcript. So that does happen. And they say some things about their GRE requirements. Yeah, right. And they say, whether or not it is required. So they say something about the GRE requirements like that. So they just tell you that okay, many graduate programs require it. So if you just want to be sure, you have to go to the page of those graduate programs and see if it's a requirement. But for this particular school, we are basically looking at English proficiency. Now let's go to another school, University of Alabama, and then let's go to, for most schools, when you are looking for things like admission requirements, you typically go to admissions or academics. Now they, I love this. They already have a link that leads to international students. So let's see, international students graduates. Let's see what the requirement is for this set of people. So they are saying that for the English language proficiency score requirement, you must submit a copy of your English language proficiency score report at the time of the application. But don't stop there. Unless you meet at least one of these criteria. What are these criteria? You hold a degree from an institution in a recognized English-speaking country. You have been enrolled in a coursework for at least 2 years in a recognized English country. You are a citizen or legal resident of a recognized English-speaking country. If you don't have those, then you have to provide all of this. Now, what are these recognized English-speaking countries? You can see Kenya, Nigeria. Is Nigeria there? Nigeria is there. Is Ghana there? Ghana. And really, you don't want to assume. I've seen a situation where I saw countries like Malawi, and I couldn't find Nigeria, for instance, in that list. I think Ghana was also there. So the thing is that some of these schools, they are still working on updating. And I remember I tried to reach out to that school, and they were like, there's nothing that they can do. It was really painful for me because I had hopes of, the person I was assisting then had hopes of getting like a teaching assistantship, graduate assistantship rather, in that particular school. So all I'm just saying is like, don't make assumptions. We want to be sure that it is something that they have that the country that you have is required there. Now, if you go to a school, for instance, like NYU, this New York University, I love that for them they have like a list. So in this list now, and this is for GRE, they let you know whether or not it's optional for you to like do a GRE for some of the courses that you want to apply to. So they have a list here that shows you, their expectation for GRE, and they also have certain things for English proficiency. And one thing that you observe now, especially with this proficiency, is that many schools, as I said in the video, have a lot of exemption for folks who are from university and who are from countries where English is the official medium of this of communication. However, there's an interesting thing I would like to point your attention to with NYU. For you to be considered, they seem not to like have a list. So basically, for them, you have to request a waiver of English language proficiency testing, right? And they are going to consider you. Let's go quickly to University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, right? One of the things I find interesting specifically about this school is that there's University of Tennessee in Knoxville, if I'm correct. Their admission requirements seems not to be 100% the same, right? But you'll see that it says that the GRE is not required. Many times this means that if you submit it, you might be considered and maybe you might have an edge, and you may not even have an edge, but it is not required. I think that's what is really important. But if you want to be double sure, for instance, in cases like this, you can go ahead and reach out to the graduate program coordinator. I always say that reach out to the graduate program coordinator just to be sure that you are making the right step, with the school. Let's see what the school has to say finally concerning English language proficiency. So let's see one of these programs that they have. Let's go to admissions. Let's go to international students. So most times when you click on admission, they will show you the next page that you might be seeing is selecting international student or graduate student. So let's see the international student requirement. So you see for graduates, you see for undergraduates, sometimes there are some difference there. But now let's see the application requirements. Now the school says now, they talk about all the IELTS things, but now they say that applicants who come from an approved English speaking country or have received a degree, or so may request to be exempt from the language proficiency requirement by completing this exemption form. So all I just want to show you is that some schools will require you to fill an exemption form. So this is what the form possibly looks like. Let's see what it looks like. If you can see it here. So so you just fill your name and the school you went to and all those things. So some schools require you, and this is where I'm really going. They will show you the countries that they consider to be English, and this is the school I was talking about. This school does not have Nigeria, so you can assume, they don't have Nigeria in their list, right? And they do have Malawi, I think, and Malawi is English. They have Rwanda, right? And I still don't know the reason why they don't have Nigeria, for instance, in their list, right? So don't make the assumption. So don't just think that you are going to fill the form and then you just go ahead and go and apply. Always like double check. If you can't see it in the list of that form, you can always go ahead and also reach out to the program coordinator before you apply. This is going to help you a lot. Some people have gone ahead and make payment for application only to get to the application process and discover that they need to provide like an IELTS or a TOE FL. I believe this helps you and gives you some insight into how you can check before you go ahead to apply, and helps you also see in practical terms that there are so many schools that have these exemptions. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helps you. Please share, like, refer somebody to this video, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.